Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Tonight on the Bear Debate, 4 hot topics. The Bears upset the 49ers in the national media's narrative. Who was the most guilty party? 13 Bears rookies were active Sunday. Who impressed and who do we want to see more of? Aaron Rodgers claimed his ownership of the Bears. Is there a new landlord in town? And what happens if the Bears beat the Packers? Does this rebuilding team finally get a good rep? Our debaters, Daniel Goodwin III from the Three Kings of the Midway podcast and Larro Golden from the Barroom Network. Let's get ready to rumble. This is the Bear Debate. Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of The Bear Debate. My name is Aldo Gandia, and we've got a really, really fun show planned for you today with two great debaters, two great fans of the game of football, two great fans of the Chicago Bears, and I can't wait to get started. But first, I want to let you know that on Friday afternoon, or about 5 p.m., I think, it's weekend sports betting tips with John Santucci and Anthony. So if you're going to be laying some college football bets or some pro football bets, should subscribe to the Barroom Network channel, and you'll get an alert when they are on the air. And then also on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Central. Yeah, I got to wake up at 8 a.m. because it's Mike North doing a show that he wants to call now the Bears Early Special. So those of you who are early enough or old enough can get the pun, like the early bird special when you would go to a diner for breakfast. Well, Mike will have some picks for Sunday's NFL action. And that's followed by the Barfly Tailgate Show at 9 a.m. Central. And then it's Tyler Ellis, my man Tyler Ellis, Gaines Report with John Buffone and Danny Shimon immediately after the game for Bear football. So we got you covered with Bear stuff. You can watch it live here on the Barroom Network, or it's always available on demand here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Let me bring our guys in here one at a time. Let me see if I can bring in Dan first. Dan, how are you, my man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Dan, before we get started here, I'd love for you to share with our audience a little bit about yourself and the podcast that you work on.
Yeah, my name is, Dan Goodwin. I'm born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. I live in Atlanta, Georgia right now. That's pretty cool. So I get to be around some Falcons fans. I'll get to go to that game too, Chicago versus Atlanta. So looking forward to that, of course. But the podcast is basically it's three of us, myself. We have another gentleman by the name of Ill Will and Devori Nesby as well. We're the three hosts of it. That's the name, Three Kings of the Midway podcast. Mm-hmm. And we basically talk about Bears football. We talk all things Bears year round. So, even in the off season, we're discussing the draft and the combine and free agency, everything. And we try to just give a fresh perspective. Like, we try not to be homers, you might say. We try to keep it objective. So we give people their flowers when they're due, but we also call people out onto the carpet when they need that to happen as well. So we try to keep it balanced in that regard.
Yep, I've listened to a few episodes, and you guys really deliver the goods. It's an outstanding show, and I can't wait to have the third member on your show too. He's gonna bring it just like you and Illwill did before. I think Illwill was on our debut show, and he did a fantastic job. So you got to live up to that expectation, brother.
I know it, right? All right. If I call myself a Three King, I gotta represent.
There you go. Let's bring in another guy who loves the game of football and knows it about as well as he knows basketball. And he really knows basketball because he is a basketball coach, but he's also a lover of the game of pro football and college football. Larro, how are you, my man?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good. It feels good to kind of be back, talking some football and seeing you, man. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. So it's been kind of dope to just be in that backstage and chop it up a little bit, Ben. But appreciate you having me on, man.
Well, I want to have you on a lot of our shows because you and I had talked in the past about perhaps you having a role with our Bears coverage, and we're doing a lot. And so I'm going to be calling you a lot, and hopefully our schedules will jive and we'll have you on a few of our shows.
Let's do it, baby. Let's do
All
it.
right. I like that. All right, my man. Let us get started with the first topic of our show. I'll roll the video and then you guys can jump in. Here we go. For many reasons, Sunday's win over the highly touted San Francisco 49ers was one of the most satisfying in recent memory. One of the reasons why is that fans have been outraged by unfair comments made by the national media. If you feel the same way about the media, take your 60 seconds to let all of them have it, or pick a specific member and let him or her have it. Now, if you have no problem with the media, go ahead and tell us why. Daniel, start us off.
I'm gonna start with I thought about it, and I thought long and hard about this one because I wanted to go at Louis Riddick, but we've given him enough, right? I think we've given him enough, and he's kind of backed down a little bit. So I'm going to go at Bart Scott. He said some things actually recently this week, and it was echoing the thoughts that somebody else had made. And we won't mention his name because I want to directly reference Bart Scott. He said that the Bears were borderline not really a real organization. He also talked about Justin Fields. He talked about the wide receivers and things. And the problem that I have with Bart Scott on this situation is that he did this after the game, after watching the game. So you see it and you see what happens in the game, and then you still go forward with that nonsense and that foolish talk. To me, that was a disgrace, especially coming from a football player, a former player, you might say.
All right. Larro, it is now your turn, brother.
Yeah, so man, look, I definitely thought about the same dudes that you thought about. Louis Riddick, somebody that I kind of respected a couple of years ago, you know what I mean? But now him talking that trash is kind of taking that away. But there's two guys that I wanted to go at, and one of them I truly hate because one of my favorite tight ends I've ever loved watching, and one of my favorite tight ends that draft in fantasy, and Greg Olsen, Mike Martz, and also Michael Lombardi. I truly despise those dudes. What my biggest problem is I feel like I've been to more training camp practices than both of those guys, right? And if you were to just step foot on the grass and take a look at how these guys are practicing, how the coaches are coaching, how the players are buying in, and not just any bull crap. I mean, these guys took Jalen Johnson off of first team because he didn't buy in, and now he's buying in. Right. And you see these guys playing, you look at the film, all these guys are rushing to the ball. So my biggest thing is to those two guys, come to a practice before you start talking shit.
I love those points because that is the problem with the national media. They are so distanced away from what is really happening here in Chicago, what's happening in Hallis Hall, getting day-to-day information, getting a feel for this coaching staff, which could end up being one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL. And Dan, I love your point of view about Bart Scott because frankly, I was not aware that he was down on the Chicago Bears. So that's a bit of a shocker to me because generally I appreciate his take on stuff. But you know what? If they say bad things about the Bears, then maybe we can't depend on anything that they're saying, right? Isn't that
Exactly.
that something to be concerned with?
They're not doing their homework, man. That's my biggest thing. They're not doing their homework. They haven't researched the situation. You go out there and you basically regurgitate what you heard somebody else say last week, and it goes on and on and on and on. Colin Cowherd, so many different ones. And on the Three Kings of the Midway podcast, I'm not trying to plug, but we're going to discuss that in depth tomorrow.
Excellent. Jordan has a question here that I'd love for you guys to tackle. He's curious. What would you like them to do instead? They have a duty in their job to report on all teams. What should they say? I'll let you guys tackle that.
Well, I'll go first, Dan. But for me, the biggest problem I have is kind of like the way I feel about Stacey King in certain points is like, and it's worse for Stacey King because this dude is at a game, he's around the team for his job, and he doesn't know what the hell drop coverage is. He doesn't know what type of defensive coverage his own damn team is running. But anyway, push it to the national reporters. Is my problem is if you don't know enough, how about you stay neutral? How about you say, hey, let's see how this roster is. Yes, they don't have anybody on the roster that I have never heard of, right? But let's see what they look like on the field. rather than saying, "Oh, this team is trash," and this team, what Bart Scott said. "Oh, this is a dysfunctional team." That you sure they got a team? It's just like Jordan, like keep it a buck, man. Like that, good question, but I think you understand where we're coming from as Bears fans, right? I don't know if you've been to a practice, Jordan, but if you were to go to a practice, you would see the difference. I've been to a training camp since I was freaking 12, man. There is a total difference, right? From Nagy, from why am I blanking on the dude with the glasses? His daughter. Why am I blanking on his name?
Mark Trestman.
Coach the Argonauts. I can't remember his damn name.
Trestman.
Right? These dudes are flying around at practice, station to station, nonstop. Dudes are responding to coaching. And one of the things I think people fuck it. I'm a curse. One of the fucking things I think people fucking forget is great players want to be fucking coached. They want to be pushed. And the ones that don't like that shit, they can get up out of here. And I don't know if that's what was going on with Khalil. I don't know. Maybe because you never know. Maybe they could have let Khalil stay and they move. Who knows? But like, great players want to be coached hard. And I think you're seeing Eddie Jackson being put in the right type of scheme again. We're not asking that dude to come up and lay hits like we were in the past couple seasons. We're saying, yo, we got you a nice little young buck next to you now, man. Go, let him play in that box and lay some hits, and you go be a ball hawk. And he reaped the benefits this past week where he was able to just play ball in that secondary and be a ball hawk. So it's just like, before you start talking off the rip, how about you maybe go ask some questions to Courtney Cronin that's been to practice? How about you go talk to Stacey Dales that's been to some practices, and then have an educated response? That's how I feel about it, Jordan. Hope that answered it for you.
Dan, what do you think about what Jordan asked?
I think basically people haven't done their research. That's what it is, right? When you look at this team, you don't see sexy names across the board, right? You don't see big splash free agents, right? And I'll use Colin Cowherd, for example. He said that what Jacksonville was doing is on the right track, and what Chicago did is terrible and is on the wrong track. Now, Jacksonville, they spent money frivolously in free agency, $123 million or whatever it is that they sent out to players and deals, like for Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk hasn't finished this season. He's always injured. Zay Jones, he's got issues. He's got problems. He's never really lived up to the hype that's been behind him. And he's got issues where he's jumping out of windows butt naked. You know what I mean? Things like that, right? So I'm just saying, I mean, it is what it is, and that's the situation. That's what happened. And then you got Evan Ingram, who they threw a bunch of money at. Once again, another injured, often player, right? So how are they doing what's right? And the Bears, by building through the draft, is doing what's wrong. Made no sense, right? You didn't do your research. And Jordan, what you're saying is that they have a responsibility or a duty in their job to report. Yeah, it's a duty in their job to report on teams, but not push bogus narratives. You know what I mean? And these are the same narratives that get spent every single week about the Chicago Bears. So that's where my problem comes in. Just do your research like I do. I cover the Bears. I follow them. I do my research. I'm not going to get on here and just speak crazy about whatever. I'm going to give you facts. I'm going to study the game. I'm going to look at tape. I'm going to look at film. It's not just, oh, I don't know who this guy is. No, let's go to film and let's see what he did. What did he do in college? How old is he? Is there upside? Is there potential? These are all things that you got to factor in when you're talking about a young team with a bunch of rookies, a bunch of second-year players, and they're all hungry and they want to be here long-term. So they're going to put forth their best effort. So just do your research. Do it as I do.
And I'd like to add to both of your points. Both of you guys made excellent points there. I worked in television broadcasts. I worked at the CBS O&O here in Chicago. And I know that station management pushes people to have the on-air talent. They push them to have definitive opinions. Don't waffle around. Don't say, I think. Don't say that. Don't say, I need to look at. They want you to have definitive opinions. I bet that's the same thing that's going on at NFL Network, ESPN, Fox Sports. They are pushing these guys to have a definitive opinion so that they can get clicks, so they can get views, so they can get all sorts of things. If I was running one of those sports department, I would as Larro said, I would compartmentalize the coverage. I would have teams covering the NFL, NFC North, teams covering the NFC East. So that way, everybody can then focus and be experts on the 4 teams from that division. Mm-hmm. Like Larro said, a national broadcaster should be talking to Stacey Dales, who is at Bears camp often. They should have calls, even if they're not covering the game. ESPN should have their major stars having a personal call, or at least being forced to listen to the press conferences. I bet you they don't listen to the press conferences. I do. I listen to every single one of them. And I'm not getting paid $500,000 like Dan Orlovsky is, or $5.5 million. I don't know what he's making, but he's making hell of a lot of money, more money than I am. So there has to be a responsible approach to this, because it's a disservice to us fans to be fed false narratives, and it's a disservice to the players too. I mean, come on. I mean, Jordan posted something about Leonard Fournette blocking Micah Parsons, and Parsons was upset that the national media was making a big deal of it. Well, that's part of the thing too. You owe it to these players to report accurately, and to report fairly, and to report with knowledge and research.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, we'll move on to question number 2, fellas. 13 of the Bears rookies suited up for Sunday's game, and a number of them made their presence felt. Pick one player you want to single out for their impressive play, and one rookie you wish you could have seen more from, or saw just enough to be a little disappointed. This time, Larro, you start things. Your mic is muted.
My fault. Yeah, so for the rookie that I actually loved, he only played 27 snaps, but I loved everything about it, was Dominique Robinson. Of course, you see the 1.5 sacks. Of course, that's the easy thing. A guy that doesn't know anything about football can see that. But just the run fits. I thought for a rookie, he did really well on run fit as well. And for somebody that came in as a super raw talent, that should tell you how good this coaching is, how really detailed and how much they put into coaching these players. Another rookie that I would like to see more of is Braxton Jones. Like I thought I was watching it again. I was kind of impressed, but I would like to see more. One of the cool things is he's not gonna have to worry about no Nick Bosa going forward. So, but I would like to see a little bit more of Braxton Jones. I don't think he was horrible, but I would like to see more of him.
Excellent. All right, Dan, I'm gonna start the clock up, and here go your 60 seconds. Take it away.
Yeah, let me piggyback off of Braxton Jones. I thought Braxton Jones was super solid. He was good. If you really look at the tape of what he was able to do, he stood in there against Nick Bosa. The whole offensive line as a whole actually blocked and protected pretty well. I think they had an 88% pass blocking rate, 88% effectiveness rate, and the league average last year was 60%. So they actually played really, really good on the offensive line, Braxton Jones included. One thing that I will say that he needs to work on, in my opinion, is physicality. Just being physical, pushing somebody around a little bit at the point of the ball. And then on the defensive side, I looked at Kyler Gordon. He was impressive to me. 6 tackles. He was able to get around, and whenever you have a cornerback, and he was sliding back and forth between outside and then playing the nickel coverage. So he was actually able to make some tackles, get some tackles, and that's what you want from your in this defense, Eberflus's defense. Your cornerbacks have to be able to tackle.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. I was really interested in your responses when I was developing this question, because there were a lot of rookies dressed. 13 rookies. There was a lot of individual excellent performances, good performances. There were perhaps a couple of rookies that they didn't do bad, but you want to see them play perhaps a little better, make a fewer mistake or two. And there were some other rookies who didn't really get on the field very much. For instance, Jack Sanborn, he played special teams, and he's not going to be in the starting lineup linebacker position unless there's an injury. But at a certain point this season, I would love to see what Sanborn can do in that linebacker position. Can he play with the speed and athleticism that he was criticized for having a lack of those things, and which is why he was an undrafted free agent? So that's going to be really fascinating to look at. Larro, I want to ask you about Trestan Ebner. He's probably going to be suited up and play this Sunday. Would you like to see him get some touches in this offense? Perhaps, you got Herbert and Montgomery, and we're going to talk about those two guys in a little while. You got those two guys, but would you like to see Ebner at least get 3-5 touches, a screen pass, a couple of handoffs in this game against Green Bay? And what are your expectations for him as a player?
Yeah, so Trestan Ebner is somebody that I actually was very impressed with in the small amount of time we saw with him in the preseason. But I would love to see him with some more touches. I think he's a guy that really has some good hands out the backfield, and he can also run the ball a little bit too as well. So I would really, really like to see him some more. Coming into game one, I was a little worried about Herbert because he was struggling with catching out the backfield a little bit. But I mean, honestly, he played pretty well. And I know we were talking about Ebner, but one thing that I really wanted to touch on with the running backs. Actually, I'll wait until you said we're going to talk about them later. So, okay. But no, Ebner I would love to see him get some more touches. I think he's somebody that if you go watch his Baylor tape, he's explosive. He gets his hand on the ball. He can make some plays. So yeah, I would definitely like to see him get some more touches if there's room for it.
Dan, let's go ahead and start expanding the conversation to all of the Bears running backs. Would you like to see Ebner get some snaps on the offense? And your thoughts about Herbert and David Montgomery? Who do you think should get more snaps between the two of them? Because based on what happened Sunday, already we're hearing a lot of people on the Herbert bandwagon saying he should get more snaps other than over Montgomery. We'll go with you first and then go to Larro to get his thoughts on that.
Hey, it's the age-old conversation, right? Everybody wants that backup that you see, and he's got a little bit of gas to him. Let's get him in there and see what he can do, So I understand the sentiments that people and the fans have, but I'll be honest with you, David Montgomery is a starter. He will remain a starter, I believe. I think Khalil Herbert is a nice change of pace. He can come in on third downs. He can do a lot of the things that David Montgomery does. But they're similar because David Montgomery can also receive the ball out of the backfield, right? He can catch the ball downfield if you need him to. So can Khalil Herbert. As far as Trestan Ebner, definitely want to see him get some snaps as well. I think he has a ton of potential. He runs physical, he runs violent, but he also has some movement to him, some wiggle, some elusivity, right? So I like that about him as well. And he's big, he's powerful. So he looks bigger than what he's listed at, in my opinion. I don't know if that's just me, but he does look bigger when he's running. Mm-hmm. But I do like his game. I like where we're at with three running backs that seem like they can contribute going forward. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, we should have fresh running backs all year if that's the case. I think we have a nice balance there.
Yeah, and we have still, I believe, Darrington Evans is in the practice squad, so he's a fourth back who I have a lot of confidence in. Larro, your overall feelings about this running back, and who would you like to see get more snaps generally in the game? I know Chubb says that nobody should be force-fed the ball, and I think that's a good thing. You play the guy who is best for the matchups on the defense, but generally, who would you like to see get more snaps?
Yeah, so for me, it was like this last year, man. Monty was out and Herbert has a couple of games and everybody just forgets about what Monty does, man. And like I would just say go back and watch the games and just look at the boxes, how the boxes look different when Khalil was in there and when Monty was in there. When Monty was in there, that box was stacked, man. And he was fighting for every yard he could. And Khalil was in there. I mean, the box was a little bit light now. Okay. Yep. So you see the stats and you're like, man, hold on. 17 for 26 and 945. Oh my God. Herbert needs more touches. Don't get me wrong. Love Herbert. He did what he's supposed to do. Take advantage of the touches you get. You know what I mean? But let's not do this to Monty, man. Come on now. Top 100 player. Come on. Let's not do this. But if obviously the game plan this year is to really depend on the run to take pressure off for Justin, and also because of the scheme they're running, set up the play action for Justin as well. So I think you can kind of use that back by committee, if you will, where, hey, give Monty a couple plays off, a couple, series off here and there, and just be able to keep fresh legs in there. I have no problem with that, but I just don't want to get it twisted, man. Like, let's not get it twisted with Monty.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why those boxes are stacked when Monty's in there. You ain't going to get him down with one guy. It's just not going to happen. That's just where I stand with the running back room. I think it's a very strong room. I mean, when you can bring Darrington Evans off the practice squad, that lets you know you got something going on in that room.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that I speak about all the time is trusting what your eyes see, right? I believe that football in general, trying to analyze it, people analyzing it, they lean heavily on fantasy numbers, or they lean heavily on PFF rankings, right? And those things can be so lopsided, and they don't tell the whole story. But your eyes, what you're watching on the game, if you go back and you watch the film, as Larro said, if you go watch the film, you count the numbers in the box, you count and you look at what they're trying to do defensively to stop the Bears, you'll see differences, right? And that'll allow somebody to have more yardage or less yardage, whatever the case. Defensive coordinators are smart. They're not stupid. You know what I mean? So, if you trust what your eyes see and you know what you're looking for, then you can really see who should be there. And I'm not saying anything bad about Khalil Herbert, because he's a good back. He's good, but David Montgomery is better at this point in time.
Absolutely. Luke Getsy was asked about that today, and he said, listen, Herbert had more opportunities to run. And when you look at the tough opportunities that Montgomery had, you can understand why the numbers weren't there. And he also complimented Montgomery's 16-yard reception on that screen early on. Unfortunately, there was an interception to kill that drive, but he really spoke highly. Second point is Chubbs says that Montgomery doesn't have that breakaway speed, but week 14, Montgomery had an 80-yard run. So I'm not sure what Chubbs, if you've forgotten about that, week 14. He doesn't have, of course, Gale Sayers' speed. I'm old enough to say I got to see Gale Sayers run, but very few people do. But the thing is that he has of that Walter Payton quality. And I was on a show with his son, Jarrett Payton, and I said, hey, man, Montgomery reminds me of your dad. No offense. Mm-hmm. He goes, no, I get you. He's got that skill to really punish tacklers. And so that's a very good thing. And then Herbert, it runs at the combine, Herbert ran a 4.5. So he's not a slowpoke by any means. Mm-hmm. I think Montgomery ran like a 4.6. And Herbert is a 4.5. So that's good speed. And I think Ebner is a 4.4. So you got a 4.4 or 4.5 and a 4.6. That's a nice combination of power and speed with your three running backs. Anybody else want to comment on those rookies or anything else to add on running backs before we move on?
I just wanted to bring up one thing that I was, like you said, although you watch every press conference, I'm sure Dan does as well. But something that made me so, because I coach, like you said, I have aspirations to coach collegiately basketball and definitely high school level. Right now I'm AAU high school level. But one of the things I love is when a coach can not have that ego about him, right? If he messes up, he is not afraid to step out there and say, hey, that was my fault. That was my fault. Mm-hmm. I got to do better. Everybody was killing Justin, obviously, about the first pick that he eloquently explained what happened. Perfect. Mm-hmm. There was that other one where it was the near pick by Tayshaun Gibson. I love what Getsy did today. Blamed himself for that play, because he said that play is actually for Dante Pettis, and mm-hmm. EQ has not ran that route all year because that usually he's not in that position. So that was on him. The timing was messed up. How many? Ain't no way in hell Nagy's gonna do that. Nagy gonna let Mitch get all the hate. He gonna let the receiver get all the hate. He ain't never gonna say he was wrong. Mm-hmm. For him to do that shows me how great of a coach he is behind the doors. if he's able to, if he's able, like if he's willing to do that for all the fans to hear, all the national reporters to hear, that really showed me a lot about why Devontae Adams loves him, why Aaron Rodgers didn't want him to leave. That type of stuff right there makes a player want to run through a wall for you.
Yeah.
And I love that about him, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't pose a question to you guys in our 4 question segments about this coaching staff, because that was my biggest takeaway from this team in week 1. Yes, there were a lot of individual great performances. And on the Buffon 55 show yesterday, I talked about how Justin Fields basically took this game under control in the second half. First 2 drives, he throws touchdown passes, one of them based solely on his athleticism to get out of pocket, which allowed Dante Pettis to get wide open. And then he makes an outstanding decision to find the open. He had 2 open guys in that play, but he threw it to the guy that was close to the goal line, which was an outstanding decision. And then he led that short drive after the Eddie Jackson interception for a touchdown. But it's the coaching staff that I was most impressed with. This is a team where you've got tons of rookies, where you've got tons of veterans from different teams. More than half the roster are new guys playing their very first game together as a unit. And they played like they've played together for a long time. They played disciplined football. No penalties throughout not hardly any penalties throughout the preseason, and they carried that on to their first game. You got to credit this coaching staff. Outstanding work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that stood out to me about the coaching staff, and I just want to make 2 points real quick. One thing about the coaching staff that stood out to me is the after the game, right? Eberflus, he talked about it, and the thing that stood out to me, we all know the hits, we know that, right? And I understand that, we get it, we understand what it stands for, hustling and intensity and takeaways, all of that type of stuff. So we get that, we understand it. And Kansas City just got to take away, but I'm gonna watch halfway.
I love it.
But yeah, he's running it back too, running back for a TD. But what he said in that locker room to those guys was physical and mental stamina is what you showed. And it's one thing to be physically able to perform and show physical stamina, right? But mental stamina under the conditions that you were under, that rainy conditions, they had mental stamina. San Francisco didn't. You understand? So to me, that stood out because that's what he's preaching. And then another thing is Tevin Jenkins even said, I believe Tevin Jenkins was one of those guys that didn't initially buy in, right? Yeah. And now he said, he came out after the game, he said, what Matt Eberflus has been telling us, all of those things are starting to happen. You know what I mean? So that lets you know that now he's buying in. And that's probably the reason why he's starting now and being able to get some run there. The last thing is we talk about David Montgomery and things like that. What you have to realize is that the Bears' average starting position, I believe in the first half, was around their 14-yard line.
Excellent.
The average starting position for San Francisco was at the 40. So if you really watch the game, that's what I'm saying. You got to watch the game. It's not if you're starting backed up in your own end zone, frequently, you're not going to be out there throwing the ball in the rain like that. I think Justin had 7 passing attempts in the first half.
Correct.
So, you didn't even pass the ball that much. You were running the ball and they stacked the box because they know, hey, you're down here at your 10-yard line. You're not going to throw the ball in this condition. So we're going to stack the box and we're going to stop Demo from running. Yeah. And that's what happened.
Getsy talked today about the halftime changes. And I think that he was a little bit conservative in the first half, but he was forced to be because, as Dan just mentioned, the field position was awful. The conditions were not good. But he came out in that second half with those halftime revisions, and the Bears blew away the 49ers, and I'm so happy.
And I'll say one last thing real quick.
Please do.
It's so funny to me, Dan, right? Last season when we had Nagy, I remember, everybody's like, why don't we run the ball? Why? I'm not dumb. I know we need to run the ball. We go out and run it 14 times or something like that against the Saints. We get an offensive coordinator that is committed. He wants to keep punching these dudes in the stomach. Keep punching them in the stomach because at some point, them boys going to give in. Right? And why are we running in? Why do we keep running into a brick wall? What, dude, guys, you just wanted a guy that was going to stay committed to the run,
Mhm.
and now you're saying, it's just so funny to me, man. It's
and
like,
it's
guys,
a monsoon out there too.
it's it's just funny to me, man. It's like, guys, this game is football, man. Like this is a physical game, man. Like, especially against that defensive line, you can't just give in at the moment of whatever. You got to keep punching them dudes and letting them know, like, nah, dog, like, you, Nick, I know you're a dog, but you're gonna have to keep getting this.
Yep.
I ain't stopping, So
Will said, "Why don't you go submerge a ball?" He tweeted it. He said, "Somebody go for you who think it's easy to throw the ball when rainy conditions like that. Go submerge a ball in your bathtub and pull it out and try to throw it in your backyard and see how far it goes."
Yeah. Getsy today was asked about the commitment to the run, and I wish I was going to pull the soundbite and I didn't. He said, I'm an ex-quarterback, so I love to throw the ball. So, yeah, I would love to throw the ball 50, 60 times a game. But we, in my offensive staff, we develop a game plan. And if that game plan is to run the ball, we're going to stick with that unless we see that we have to adjust and make some changes, which is pretty much exactly what happened this past Sunday. But bottom line is he's committed to the run, even though he'd rather throw the ball, which is opposite of Matt Nagy. Was never really committed to the run and always wanted to throw the ball. In fact, when I would go out to Bourbonnais and watch the Bears practice, there was Matt Nagy throwing the ball 40 yards because he still wants to be a quarterback. All right, let's go on to question number 3. I got a feeling this might be a little heated here. Here we go. We'll never forget what happened last season on October 17th after Bears wide receiver Darnell Mooney caught a pass to put the Bears within 3 points with 8:44 to go in the fourth quarter. Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers took his team downfield, scored a huge touchdown to extend the lead to 10 points, and then said this. The facts are these. Since taking over as starting quarterback, Aaron Rodgers is 23-5 against the Bears. That's an .821 winning percentage, the third highest by any quarterback with at least 25 starts since 1950. Can you possibly make the case that Rodgers does not own the Bears? And if you can't dispute his boast, tell us why. Daniel, you're up.
Yeah, this is a tough one because the numbers speak to him dominating Chicago, and things of that nature. So I get it, man. I get what he was saying. He's talking a little bit of trash or whatever. It kind of pissed everybody off, of course. Pissed me off. I didn't like hearing it, and everybody else doesn't like hearing it. But you know what? This is a whole new situation. You know what I mean? When he took over, the Bears were spanking them before. Let's not get it twisted. Back in the Lovey days, when we had Lovey Smith, and we used to go up to Lambeau. I went to a game on a Sunday night, and where we won, and Greg Olsen caught a long touchdown over the middle after as Cedric Benson and Thomas Jones was running it down their throats. So we've played well against the Green Bay, and we've played well some games. Some games we get tossed up or whatever, but at the end of the day, you know, he got his little time to talk right now. But at the end of the day, I want him to stick around for as long as possible because soon we'll be dog walking them pretty much every single time we play them. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Larro, you're up, brother.
Yeah, so, as you look at the stats, you know what I mean? Like, if you've been a realist, I mean, the brother has had his way. But last time I checked, George Hallis, Virginia, them the owners, you know what I mean? So you can't really say all that trash. Now, you want to stay on the football field, that's cool. But to be completely honest, man, I mean, he's had his way. We can't really go at him in the way that I would love to go at him. But this tide is getting ready to change, man. I can feel it. Ain't no Devontae Adams over there, and I'm not saying that he's not going to be successful still. I'm just saying it ain't easy now. He gonna have to get it right with the wide receivers. They're gonna have to really depend on the running backs, and that defense got to step up a little bit better than they did in Minnesota. And so all that owner talk, that might have been the last thing he could say because it's over with. But all I gotta say is that shit about to change. So that's it.
I love the positive attitude. I got to tell you, would you guys like to have a quarterback with that confidence that fuck you fans, you're going to give me the finger, I own you? Would you like to have a quarterback like that, or would you rather have I always compare it to a whiskey drinking quarterback to a milk and cookies kind of quarterback. Me personally, I like the swag, and he can get away with it because the numbers are there, right?
Yeah, you can get away with it because the numbers are there for right now, and that's fine, that's fine. You can get away with that tough guy talk or whatever. At the end of the day, to do that in Chicago was disrespectful. I didn't like it, right? And you can't get mad at fans for cursing you out or saying whatever they want to you when you do that, right? So you do that, and you should get whatever comes your way, in my opinion. You know what I mean? I'm not threatening the man with violence or nothing like that.
Sure.
It's not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them, to pick him up and dump him on his head like they did Jim McMahon back in the day. That's not what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. But, if you get cursed out or you get talked about or talk trash to, then you deserve it at that point because you did it to the fans. You started that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'll put it this way. I was a huge Deshaun Watson guy. As long as you ain't doing that whole massage thing outside, as long as you ain't putting your hands on no woman, whatever you can do what the hell you want to do on that football field, as long as we win ball games. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could be the Cam Newton getting into the end zone, pulling your chest open for the S. You could be, I guess, Jay Cutler and be the whatever. But if he's winning ball games, ain't nobody gonna say nothing about how rude he is off the field. That motherfucker winning ball games.
Exactly.
But you know what I mean? So it's like, or you could be like Justin, right? He flipped the football to the ref and do his little thing with his teammates and go on his way. Mm-hmm. For me, whatever you want to do, as long as you're not a scumbag off the field and whatever, like that's all that really matters to me is like be a good person first, and whatever you do on that football field, hey, it's between the lines, man.
That's the thing. I grew up talking trash. We play basketball, play football, whatever. Oh, yeah. You're talking trash the whole time. Mm-hmm. The whole game you're talking, come over here, I'm about to handle you, blah, blah, blah. But see, when you do it to the fans, then it's disrespectful, and you cannot complain when the fans meet you with that same energy. That's all I'm saying. And I don't mind, like I'm like Larro, I don't mind if Justin went out there and he did the same thing, I wouldn't mind. I mean, you did it to us first, so now you deserve it. But it is what it is. I've never been the type of person that would go at fans. I played football and things like that before in my life, and I'm not gonna, who's watching this? Who's watching? Play a basketball tournament? Who's watching this? Who's watching? I'm here I'm talking trash to the guys that I'm playing against. Now, if you want to say, hey, you own Matt Nagy or Mark Trestman or John Fox, those are the guys you own. You don't own nobody else.
Mm-hmm. This last year, of course, we all know that Luke Getsy was Aaron Rodgers' quarterback coach, and so he was asked about that comment that Rodgers made, and Getsy got right to the point on it.
That's him being him. That's his swag, right? That's his swag. It's the way he plays the game. The competitor. That's how he gets his juice. I mean, that's him, man.
Can't blame him for that. Now, here's what I do have an issue with. Last year, we all remember that the NFL and probably the Bears were the biggest victims of this stupid rule about taunting. Oh, we all remember what happened in Pittsburgh. It cost us that game.
Yeah.
Well, why wasn't Aaron Rodgers flagged for taunting? I mean, is it just relegated to other players? Why can he be allowed to say something as disrespectful to a fan, a paying customer, and not say something like that to a player? Does that strike you weird? Larro, you first.
Yeah, not only that, brother, but I remember Josh Gordon was about to do crazy things to this league. And just because the brother puffed on the Magic Dragon, he got suspended. But this brother all on podcast talking about taking psychedelics and all types of shit before games. But ain't nobody said nothing to him. He could just play intoxicated. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like, what is about it with that golden boy? Like, it's frustrating. And I know if you're like Josh Gordon or anybody else that was suspended for smoking weed, you like, man, hold on, man. This brother just said he was taking psychedelics before games and stuff, man. How are y'all not talking to him? You know? So no, I agree. I don't know what it is with Aaron, man. I mean, and I'll leave it at that. I don't know what it is, man.
Dan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with those sentiments as well. Like I said, I mean, for him to say something like that, it's fine. If, like I said, I talk trash with the best of them, man. You know what I mean? But I'm going against my opponents talking trash. I'm not talking to the city. I'm not gonna, same thing with when a guy leaves the city or a team, to turn around and bash the city or the fans. Doesn't make sense to me either. I've never quite understood that. That's maybe something new that guys do now, but I've never seen, I've never enjoyed that or been around it too much. But hey, that's what he chooses to do. I don't agree with it. And yeah, when you're talking about the golden boy reputation or he gets away with certain things, I mean, in that game, we were cheated on several plays. I can go back to that film and I can isolate. I mean, about 5 different. I mean, from everything from spotting the ball outside of the hash marks. I mean, these are things that happen repeatedly over and over when any team faces Green Bay, and it happens to other teams in the NFC North, not just Chicago, because it's happened to Detroit and Minnesota as well. I will say this though. One thing about Aaron Rodgers, he has his lowest passer rating against the Chicago Bears. He has a higher passer rating against Detroit and Minnesota. So technically he plays better against them than he does us.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, it is time to talk about Sunday night's game. This is how I'm posing the question to you. So what happens this week? Do the Bears win and set the NFL afire with praise going their way? Do the Bears win, but the narrative becomes that Rodgers' team is suffering from a badly depleted roster? Or do the Packers win because it's the Bears roster that is still too depleted? Larro, you start us off with this final question.
Yeah, so for me, I think I know this sounds crazy, and I don't want to come off as a meatball homer-ass fan, but like there has to be something to be said about great coaching and having young guys on the roster that don't know what the hell is going on. Like they just going out there and playing football. They don't know how it is to be in this rivalry. They haven't been on the same field when Aaron Rodgers has been torturing us. So they don't even think of it that way. So there's something to be said about having young guys that don't know what the hell is going on. They just out there playing for their family, for their name. But I think there's a shot. I think that whole what they got is 10-point underdog. So
yes.
I bet for them to cover. But I wholeheartedly deep down think that this team has a chance. I watched that Packers game and I know it was one game, but for a secondary that's been together to have those type of miscommunications in the secondary is kind of crazy. If we could just stop Kenny Clark. Like Kenny Clark is a game wrecker. I know everybody talks about Rashawn Gary and a couple of those other guys, but Kenny Clark to me is the guy. Mustafa, whoever starts at center, these guards, they got to do whatever they can to keep Kenny Clark's big ass out from collapsing his damn pocket, man. That brother is a fucking monster when he's healthy. But so for me, I know I went over my 60 seconds, but give me the Bears this week with an upset to go 2-0 and have Green Bay fucking pulling their hairs out.
All right, Dan.
All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna go Chicago takes the victory, but the narrative turns to Aaron Rodgers has a depleted roster, inconsistent guys who are rookies, even though going up against a team that's much younger and has way more rookies and way more rookies starting than him. But that's besides the point. Chicago will play this game. I believe that they have a legitimate chance to win this game. They do have some issues in Green Bay. That offensive line, they're heading into that game possibly missing 3 of their starters, right? Bakhtiari, Runyon, and the other guy. So there's a possibility that those 3 miss. Now, it's not set in stone, of course, so they may end up playing, who knows. But if they're missing those guys, plus the problems that they had defensively, these are problems that take time to be fixed. they don't just fix them overnight. They're not fixed game to game. So these are things that they need to work on to kind of get fixed. So I think the Bears have a really good shot at beating these guys heading into it. But we won't get the credit, and they will get a pass for it, you might say.
I'm afraid that Dan is going to be right. Not that we need the credit from the national media, but
we don't want it.
Yeah, right. At this point, we don't want it. Exactly. Keep doubting this team, please. Because one of the things that I learned from Ditka was playing with the chip on your shoulder can be a hell of an advantage, man.
Yes, sir.
So what do you think, Larro, though? Do you think that if the Bears do pull off the upset, do you think that they're going to finally get credit from the national media, or you don't care? What are your thoughts?
For me, it's gotten to the point where I don't really care. Because back in the day, I did used to care because I think it was kind of like a thing for me because I didn't feel comfortable with the coaching staff. I didn't feel comfortable with the whole dynamic of the team in past years. But now I feel comfortable. I feel like we have great coaches. I feel like we have players that actually like playing with each other. They're going out there playing hard. Fighting for each other. All three phases. There's a lot of coaches that say that three phases, but really they don't give a damn about the third phase with special teams. And I feel like that is also Valus is healthy. I feel like that is another chip because Packers special teams have been trash now. They've been trash. And if the defense and offense can work together to keep that game close, who knows? A special Valus pops off a big run, maybe a touchdown, whatever it is. But like I'm to the point where I don't even care anymore, man. I trust these coaches. I really, really vibe with the way they go about coaching. I mean, even being at the training camp, man, and sitting down and watching them, man, like you could tell that these coaches love to coach, hopping in drills, and like I saw Getsy hopping. David must have did something wrong with his footwork or something like that. He hopped in the damn drill himself. Luke Getsy did the drill, boom, boom, boom. Like it's like they love. You could see it. It like you hear Nagy say, "Oh man, us coaches are going to get together and figure it out." You go to a damn practice, they don't even look like they want to be there, right? Mm-hmm. But you go to the practice with Eberflus's staff, these dudes look. They you could see it's like I don't know. You could just get that vibe. Me as a coach, like you could see it, man. Like these dudes want to coach these dudes and make them the best players they can be. Mm-hmm. Like simple as that. That's their whole goal. And I love that they keep saying it's not about them. It's about us, because ultimately that's what the hell it's about.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you got to take care of your home first, before you can take care of anybody else. And so like I just really vibe with
how you coach your basketball teams, Larro?
Yeah, man. I mean, bro, I don't get paid a lot. I don't get paid like Eberflus, but like, but like. I fucking love the coaching. You would think I get paid that much. If somebody wants to stay after and get some extra cone work or get some extra work on their footwork, get some extra work on their form, defensive work, like I'm all for it, man. Like I just love coaching, man. Like it's something about seeing a player that click moment. It's something about it. You know what I mean? Because it just it shows you that damn, you actually do know what you're doing, but also like for them, it takes them to the next level for them. You know, it makes the game a little bit easier for them. And now they can go play freely, you know? So it's like, I love that shit. So I can get caught up sometimes in trusting coaches. But Eberflus, man, like, I just get it. You get it. He doesn't come off fluffy. Like, he doesn't come off like, he's just a damn football coach. Coach Kaplan, David Kaplan and Hoodie, I remember before the season even started, you know, he would be talking to the media. Oh, he's just the A to B guy. He's too fluffy. Guys are not going to vibe with him. Like, guys, you know what? If you play football, acronyms, bro, my coach had acronym for every goddamn thing. Like, that's just what football is, man. Like,
it's a great way to remember things.
Exactly. It's just I don't get why people like get all like, oh man, like he's too fluffy, he's too that. As long as these players are responding, there's a clip. My bad, Dan. I'm gonna shut up.
No, you're good. You're good, bro.
Clip that you see where on the play, what was it? I think Brandon Ayuk on a deep crosser, Jalen came and hit him with the shoulder and he bumped him out. Yeah. You see Eberflus, the motherfucker is coaching in the game. Like he looked at Jalen was like, wrap up, wrap up. None of that shoulder shit. Yep. And I was looking to see, because body language says everything. I'm looking to see how Jalen responded to it. He gave him like, yup. And that's all I need to see, that these players are responding. Most players would have, man, yeah, all right, man. I'm getting paid too much money for this shit. Get out my face.
Yep.
You know, but he responded to it. And that little shit like that shows you, man, body language will show. You don't need to hear words, just body language. That's all you need to see.
Yeah, that's it. You know, you're speaking and you're making a whole lot of sense, and that's what the media is not looking at. That's what some fans don't look at all the time. You know, you hear the name Eberflus and Getsy and things like that, and you think, okay, what have these guys done? You know, a lot of people have said the Bears should have hired an offensive guy because you have Justin Fields, and I told people, you know, I said it on our podcast too. I'm glad they got a defensive guy, and the reason being is because more so than the defensive guy, he's the CEO of the team. That means you can align you establish, you put together your staff, right? And he has his staff full of guys that bring something to the table, and it's a tree that he's building, right? And all the great coaches have that. All the great coaches are CEO type coaches. They have relationships with other coaches in the league. He has relationships. It's in stark contrast to what you saw from Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy did not have relationships with other coaches. All he knew was people through Andy Reid, right? So he that's all he knew. So that's why you had this, you know, all of these guys that he brought in, these guys weren't qualified to be coaching, to be honest with you, right? And these guys that he's built a staff that will help these players hone skills, draw the best out of them, and most importantly, put them in positions to be successful. That's what your job is as a coach, right? And when you're not able to do that, then everything else is magnified, everything else is exposed, right, on the table, and that's what the problem that Matt Nagy had. So I think this team is wonderful. I think it was good that it was a defensive hire as well, and one of the reasons it being is because as a defensive coach, he can go into that offensive, you know, when they're running their scheme and say, you know what, this is how I would stop Justin Fields. This is what I would do to stop Darnell Mooney or David Montgomery. These are the things that you're going to face. So a lot of times a defensive coach can be just as beneficial as an offensive play caller, as a head coach.
Yep, indeed. Fields has talked about the value of talking to Eberflus about defenses and stuff. So I am with you, man. You guys have not said a word that I disagree with. I love the fact that we finally have a coach who is a CEO and not somebody who's buried in their Denny's menu and only watching half the game. I love the fact that we have coaches who are accountable, who are great teachers. Mike Furry had to be the worst wide receiver coach in the history of the Chicago Bears. He should have been fired after the first or second season, but his good buddy Matt Nagy kept him on. That was another telltale that Matt Nagy was in over his head, just sticking with guys that he could trust. Sort of reminds me of Trestman with some of his coaching staff and how he stuck with guys who were incompetent. But
yes, man.
Yes, man, exactly. So, guys, you guys have really brought it. It's been a great show. I know we were up against an outstanding Thursday night game, and so we didn't get as many live viewers as we normally do. But this show will be available on demand to watch on video here on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page. It's gonna be fresh content all the way till Sunday. So I urge all of you good people who joined us in the chat room to let other people know about this show, because the content that Dan and Larro both offered is outstanding. And the show will also be available on our audio podcast. Dan, before we get out of here, please plug your own podcast, which is one of the best Chicago Bears podcasts out there. Very entertaining and very knowledgeable. Let people know where they can get it, and also let people know, particularly for our audio audience, how they can interact with you on social media.
Absolutely. Well, you can hit me at Dan Goodwin III. It's right there on the screen, the Dan Goodwin III on Twitter. You can also follow the Three Kings of the Midway. That's 3Kings_Midway on Twitter as well. Interact with that situation. We also will be doing mini shows, right? We're trying to get to the point where we're doing two, like a before before the like Friday show, and then of course maybe like a kind of like a wrap up, or take a look at what happened during the game type of show. We also host spaces as well on Twitter, and we're also going to be doing and having live content, right? And that's on YouTube, so you can go anywhere you can find your podcast that you listen to. It doesn't matter where you are, Amazon, YouTube, whatever it is, you can find us on there. Put Three Kings in the Google search and we'll pop up. And then of course, it'll be live. Our podcast will be going live from now on YouTube as well. So we're looking forward to that, man. We appreciate everybody that rocks with us, that listens to us. We don't always get along. You know what I mean? We don't always have the same views, but it's nice to have that discussion, because that's what sports is. It's opinions, man. It's what your opinions are. Never let anybody tell you that your opinion is wrong unless they can prove it.
Unless they're wrong.
But I say I lie sometimes, but even when I lie, I tell the truth.
No, I love your take, Dan, because it really is. I mean, one of the things that I've been spending some time on thinking about lately is all of the various diverse opinions on social media. Sometimes it's really, really cool, and sometimes it gets a little sickening when some people are just typing and they're not reading what other people are sharing. It should be give and take, but for the most part, it's always fun.
That's one thing. The funniest thing to me is if you don't have my opinion, if you don't view it the way I view it, I'm blocking you, or I'm no longer following you. I'm like, come on, man. Like, it's all opinions, man. We all have a different opinion, a different view, a different whatever. So, I've never suppressed anybody's right to their own opinion.
Absolutely. That's the way it should be done, man. You're setting a good example for all of us. Larro, what about yourself, man? What you got going on? If I want to go see a game that you're coaching, where do I go? What's going on?
Yeah, man. So, I mean, we got some games coming up in October. Usually Schaumburg, we usually play in Aurora at Supreme Courts, or we're in Schaumburg. Sometimes we're in the city in the south side at the not the south side, I'm tripping. At UIC. So we're a little bit all over. But yeah, man. I mean, that's all I'm doing right now is coaching ball. And then we have something, me and a couple of my boys have something coming out very soon that hopefully all basketball fans will enjoy. If you like NBA, college, WNBA, if you're into data science, if you're into scheme versatility, learning about schemes that NBA teams run or college teams run, prospects, anything that you want to learn about ball, like we got something coming. So be on the lookout. I will definitely be tweeting things out when we're ready to go, ready to launch. So just be on the lookout. We got something coming.
Awesome. And for those of you who are on Twitter, make sure you follow Larro. It's @_LARRO hoops, Larro hoops _Larro hoops. You're going to get an education on basketball. One of the things, he had a show here on the Barroom Network called Bulls 101 with Chris Amundsen, and it was such
football matchup only on Prime Video.
so somebody in my but I got such a great education, and I don't want to take shots at Stacey King, but he was teaching his audience and me stuff that Stacey King was not even aware of, and other NBA announcers and Shaquille O'Neal was not aware of. It's unbelievable. So the game has passed up some of the people that we love in the game of NBA, and Larro and his group of people. This new enterprise that they're going to undertake is going to be something that you should definitely pay attention to it if you are a basketball fan of any type. And the best way to learn about it is by following Larro on Twitter @Larro Hoops, and that's 2 R's on Larro.
I will say,
yes, please.
Now your boy wasn't as good as Shaq now, so don't get it twisted. Your boy wasn't no Shaq now, but they do say the dudes that couldn't do it, they go coach. You know, so I am a student of the game. I am a person that is always looking to get better. So I love that. I love what you said, but don't get it twisted, listeners. Your boy ain't 7 foot, and he ain't out here putting thing on people's heads now.
Well, I met you. You're a good 6'1", 6'2", right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I ain't going down there with Shaq now. I ain't going down there.
No.
Shout
out though, man, for real for what you do. I mean, coaching is not always easy. You know what I mean? And working and molding with young ones, with these young guys, sometimes it can be difficult. Now, some of them are easily moldable, right? And you can really kind of impress upon them the truth of the game. But you get somebody that's been told, hey, you're this, you're that, and they don't listen to you. So it's difficult what you do. It's a job that you do, man. But shout out to you for doing it, because we need more guys that put in work with the youth to really help them get better, hone their skills in the game, things like that. Because a lot of people just get by on their talent, man. And then when they get to the pro level, they don't know how to really play the game. And that's what you see in the NFL and the NBA sometimes. You see guys that get over on their talent, they get to the NFL or the NBA, and they have no clue how to make that talent work, because now I don't know how to use my body. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? I just jumped over people before, but now this dude is the same size as me, so I need to use my body and understand how to move him around. People don't know that.
Yeah, see, we ain't gonna turn this into a basketball show.
No. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
You almost had me get going. You almost had me get started on something. But yeah, man, I appreciate your kind words, and I totally agree with some of these kids out here getting sold stories, man. These parents think all their kids are Kobe Bryant's and LeBron James's. They're mistaken.
Yeah. You can learn a lot from the game of basketball, and one of those things that you can learn is life lessons. I mean, John Wooden, I read his book years ago, and because Jabbar highly recommended it.
Yeah.
And Wooden would have these life lessons that he would teach his players at UCLA. And that to me is the essence of all sports at whatever level, in the pros, in the amateur ranks, even as a follower. You learn these life lessons and you can apply it to your own life, and you'll be better off because of it. So
absolutely.
Kudos to you guys for the work that you do, for the on podcasts, coaching, and so forth, and also for being friends, man. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And again, anyone who is more interested in more Bears content, we're loaded on Sunday, and also betting content as well, Friday evening with John Santucci and Anthony, the weekend sports betting tips. So with that, I will let you go. Thanks for watching, you people who are live, and all of you who will be watching or listening on demand. Thank you all very much.
Peace.